All right, here's what we're going to do. I got a lot of content today, and this is like a three-part series. We're going to talk about conversion. Today, we're going to do internet conversion. We're going to do some stuff around conversion in our sphere and our open houses and some different stuff coming up in the subsequent weeks. We're going to have Ben Kinney's going to join us in week 3 for just some insight, some knowledge. Today, it's internet lead conversion. You guys, as we're going through here and you have questions, do me a favor, find the chat, find it right now. Let's just find the chat right now. Tell me, Barry, my buddy Barry Steve, how you doing, Barry? Why'd you join me today? What are you hoping to accomplish out of today? You want to become a better internet lead converter? Or you we don't do anything and we're looking to just get started? We're absolutely horrible at it, or we're pretty good. We're just trying to tweak that last 15 or 20%. Andrew says he's an ISA, always seeking best practices, tips to pass on. Pamela wants to be a rock star. Susie says, I'm just getting started. Chance says, I'm absolutely horrible at it. Thank you, Chance. I like the, what would we call that? The honesty, the vulnerability, as it were. All right. John Hurlbutt, I don't know that I'm going to teach you anything I didn't teach you in the hour we spent together yesterday, my friend, but I don't know. Maybe we'll pick something up here. Maybe we'll pick something up. So I kind of have, let me share my screen. And guys, there's a lot of content here today. So I might be a little bit more chaotic than I normally am because I know I got a lot of stuff to go through. And I know that I'm normally pretty chaotic anyway, but bear with me while we... there we go. We have a new area of the office here up in Bellingham, and I'm in this new area, so I've got like a new computer monitor and some new, but let's figure this out. Here we go. Let's just go full screen, and we're going to talk about internet lead conversion, a little bit of 10 days of pain, and a little bit of Brivity Connect, which has become kind of the secret weapon that a lot of our teams are really leaning into. And especially Ben's place organization, and most of those people are now running Brivity Connect. So a little bit of 10 days of pain and just kind of lead conversion, a little bit of Brivity Connect. So before we start, let's talk about foundations for successful conversion. And the first one would be, we're going to schedule some time. Guys, if you don't have, look, it doesn't have to be the same time every day, by the way. We've got many teams that will do, they do generally that 9 to noon time in the morning, but a lot of the agents on our teams will also have, 1 or 2 days a week where they are scheduling that time from 4 to 7 in the evening or something. John, for you, I'd get you the slide deck, buddy, if you reach out to me after this. I don't know that we're going to share it broadly, but so schedule the time. The second kind of just foundational thing is know what you're going to be saying when you're reaching out to people. And guys, we've got these Ben Kinney real estate scripts that our teams use. We have scripts and dialogue practice every single morning from 8:30 to 9. And Ben, throughout his whole career, has done script practice. Like he started doing it all by himself in the conference room at his very first office. And then he finally got a couple people to do it with him. But it's just been a steady, kind of consistent element of his whole career. And knowing your scripts is really one of these things where daily practice, you don't really recognize how much it's making a difference until you look back a year or 2 years later, and the compounding effect of that 15 or 20 minutes that we spend every single morning. Yeah, Ken, there'll be a recording, bud. That compounding effect of the 15 or 20 minutes adds up, right? And it adds up pretty fast. And look, I think for many of you guys, especially if you're taking these, these tips back to your team, there are a few really key scripts that you need. The first one would be like, what do I say on that first call, right? The second one might be, what do I say when somebody says, I'm just looking? And our script for I'm just looking is something to the effect of, oh, hey, that's awesome. We're super glad you found our website. Most people start by just looking. Hey, so do you guys currently live in the area? All right, and because what most of your agents would do if they didn't know their scripts and somebody said, I'm just looking, they'd go, okay, well, shoot. Okay, let me know if you need anything. Right, so knowing your scripts is super important. What's your goal? like as you set out each call, really, like what is the goal? We have this concept of always having a what's next. And this is one of the easiest concepts for people to like kind of shake their head to. Yeah, that makes sense. And one of the hardest to actually put into play. But it's this idea that like when I talk to a real estate lead, because guys, most of the leads you talk to today aren't going to buy, especially if they're a new lead, for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months. It's going to be a really long time, right? We always have a what's next. If we talk to somebody, it is in our company DNA to say, what's the next thing that's going to happen with them? And then we want to come at them from every angle. I have we have this lady who is quickly in my world become kind of the North Star for really just working an awesome business. Her name's Katie Sentinella, and she's an agent up here in Bellingham, Washington. She's in her second year in the business. She's currently has 41 closed transactions this year. She's got another 5 pending. She's probably going to do about 55 to 60 deals this year. And I was doing a call with them the other day, and we pulled this lead up, and I was trying to find an example, and I found like the perfect example, and just kind of randomly, we pulled this lead up, and we could see the lead had about 30 text messages had been sent or received from this lead, and there was like 27 phone calls logged. Like a massive amount of effort had gone into this lead, but all those text messages were from 7 months ago. When this lead had first came in, they had engaged us in text. It had been a pretty good back and forth, and but ultimately it was, they were waiting, right? And Katie, look, she had a reminder on the calendar, and sure enough, a month after that, she had called them 6 months ago, and then a month later, she called them again. And recently, because she'd moved them back to unqualified, like they hadn't been engaging with her, and she was calling them every week. She's got this routine where she'll load up all of her unqualifieds into a dialer, and she'll just go after them, just really pounding on them. And she'd been going after this one every week for like, I don't know, 3 months, 4 months, a long time. And when we pulled it up, I asked her a question. I said, "Hey, Katie, like, good job. First off, you're going after this person like as hard as you can. They were willing to text with you 7 months ago. And I noticed that in the last 7 months, you've called them like 22 times, but you haven't texted them again." And it was just one of those, like, for her, like, yeah, duh, right? Like we come at them from every angle. And sometimes, guys, even when we're doing the best and we're performing at a really high level like Katie is, we got to be reminded of these things. So some of you guys have heard these things before, but you're here today to maybe be reminded of them. So what are our goals in kind of validating that lead? It's one of the first things that we're trying to do when we get on the phone with them, right? Is validate that thing, right? So it's verify their contact information. It's gather additional contact info if possible. I can't tell you how often people, you guys, right, are talking, our agents are talking to a lead, and they let them off the hook. They let them off. I'm always looking, and it's been many years since I've personally, but I've talked to tens of thousands of real estate leads. I've called more leads still all these years later, I bet, than most agents. And I was always on the hunt for something else. Right? If I had a quickly lead, which we didn't have back then, but if I had, I would have been looking for an email address. When I get somebody to engage with me, immediately I want to know where they live. Because one of the things that Ben learned in his career, and he's kind of got a quippy little joke for this, is, look, everybody lives somewhere. Maybe they rent, that's fine, or maybe they own it, but I want to know where they live, right? So I'm always on the hunt for those additional kind of contact infos. Ford, you guys, family, occupation, recreation, dreams, right? These are things that, a lot of times before even going into a lead, you can pick off of the lead profile an email address that indicates to you where they work, right? If they've got around here, a University of Washington.edu email address, like there's a decent chance, and they could be a student there, but they also might be a professor there, right? If they have a Microsoft email or a Boeing email, or right away, the occupation, like I've got something I could potentially line up with them. We've got to try to determine these people's needs. And we have this if you're a Brivity client, you can find it in the Brivity Masterminds group. It's called the buyer information lead sheet, or we call it our green sheet, that basically lays out all these questions that we need to ask them to determine their needs. And then we're gonna look at their history or their activity so that we can get in there and have what we call a smart conversation. And we'll talk about that in a minute. What I had my mom as a real estate agent, and my mom had sent me this. She sent me a lead. I don't know. She's like, "Hey, can you look at this one?" Like, for some reason, I talked to the lady, and she said she's not getting she never got the listing alert from us. And so I'm like, okay, I pull this email address up, and the lady's name was like Beth Samuels. And in the email address, it was just spelled wrong. It was Beth, Sameul, instead of Uel. She had literally typed her email address in wrong. So sometimes, like, when you first get into that lead, guys, just pull it up and slow down for a half a second and just visually inspect that thing, right? Does the name make sense? Like, sometimes people will put fake names and then use an email address that has their name in it. And you're like, you're obviously not like a CIA agent, bud. I can see your name and your email address here, right? The phone number, I was on with a team yesterday, and we were looking at their leads that had looked in that move up price point, leads that have been on their website that were looking. He's in Birmingham, Alabama. So it was like the 400,000 and up price range. And I kept asking him, when we were seeing these people who are looking at $500,000-$600,000 houses who had local phone numbers, I'd say, Robbie, I don't know his phone. I'm like, is that an area code in your area? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, Robbie, if you have somebody looking in your area at 600,000 and they've got a local area code, do you think they might have something to sell? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, have we ever asked them that? Have we ever tried to? That's just stuff you pick off out of there when you've looked at enough leads, right? The typos, like the story with my mom, very common. You can Google their name, their address, especially their unique name, right? Their email address. We will throw these names into Facebook. I can't tell you guys how often you can just take a name. Now, look, if it's Bob Stewart, probably not going to work. But if your name's Benny Gurdovsky, sorry, Benny, I just butchered your last name there, I'm sure. Or John Hurlbut, like, if you call Kenneth Van Every, right? If one of you guys showed up on your insurance, you filled out some insurance form and they went and Googled you guys or or Facebooked you, right? There's a pretty good chance they'd find some information about you. So do you slow down enough to do that, right? And look, but I had done this the other day with one of our teams, and I Googled somebody, and we were kind of it was a team here in the area, and so it was highly likely that if that name was going to come up for my Facebook. Then when I do that with like a team down in Alabama, they don't show me the right people. They show me people here in Washington, right? But you guys are generally looking up people that are near you. And I pulled this one up, and there was a whole bunch of good information on there, you guys. I knew I knew this lady's political party. I knew where she worked. I knew that she had grandkids. There was a whole bunch of stuff I could see. Now, look, I wouldn't go into that call saying, hey, I know who you voted for, right? Because that'd be weird. But I keep that stuff in the back of my head. And if I can get to a place where we're talking about grandkids, right, I'm gonna angle the conversation there. Family, occupation, recreation, dreams, right? Knowing what those things are going in can be a big deal. So Facebook research, there are people finders. You can look these things on LinkedIn. Sometimes it makes sense, especially if you don't have a million leads. Sometimes you're kind of playing this balancing act between, I don't have as much time and I got a ton of leads, and then maybe I should just get in and call. Sometimes you don't have as many leads, or you want to make a smarter call or a better call, or the more we can treat these people like real people, and that's always been a theme that we've come back to over the years in our conversion efforts, the more we can treat them like real people. And so the more that we know about them so that we can humanize that lead, the more likely it is that you're gonna want to make the call. You're gonna know what to say once you're on the call. Then we're gonna research what they've been looking at, guys. right? Now, look, this could be a really quick thing. You're just, especially if you know your market super well and you're kind of an idiot savant in what's going on and what the prices mean in different areas. And, you can get in there, but some of the things we're looking for in here is that multiple views, right? Did they look at the same property 5 times? John Hurlbut, we were on yesterday on your guys' thing, and we had pulled one up and they'd looked at it like 7 times. And you made the joke, like, I gotta go. Like, I should go call them right now. Right? Are they looking like, I was thinking, like, this is up here in, well, this specific example right here, the ladies looked at a property in Bellingham and Puyallup. Like, anybody who lives in this area knows those two places are like 2.5 or 3 hours apart. Right? So, like, as I was looking at this, I might think, oh man, this is probably somebody that doesn't know the area, or they're maybe looking for an investment property or vacation property or something, because they're looking like, you can pick stuff up out of this. Not that you're going to lead with necessarily, but you've got in your quiver to help you as that conversation develops, right? So when we get in there, we actually we've got the lead, right? And we're about to kind of make that first call to lead. We're going to change the status. We change the status to unqualified on the lead kind of right away, just as we're making the call. Now, if we talk to them, they'll become a hot watch or nurture, but we get them out of new is the point. We're going to add any notes from the stuff that we had kind of done before that, right? Anything we'd looked up on Facebook. Maybe there's some relationships on there. It looks like she's married. She's got 2 kids, right? She looks like she works at this place. Going to update any contact information that we might have been able to pull. If we were in Ben Verified, Ken Van Every, we might have, grabbed an address on something, or right, might know where she lives now, even though they didn't put that in there when they became a lead. And obviously, we're going to make contact. We're going to attempt to. Now, look, if you guys have done this enough, a lot of them don't answer. A lot of people today are not answering calls from phone numbers that they don't have in their cell phone. Then we're going to confirm that an auto plan was put in place on that lead. And then we're going to make sure they've got a listing alert and a market report. And we'll dive into this a little bit deeper here in a minute. So change the status, add notes from our research, right? Anything that we might have picked up additionally, update any contact info additionally that we grabbed out of Ben Verified. Attempt to make contact. Guys, we're always going to call first. Right? We're always going to call first. Now, sometimes that lead has like an auto plan going, but we'll actually talk with our agents about going in, like the auto plan's going, but we may actually send another text message at that time that we make that phone call. Right? And we will try to make that text message very particular to what they were doing or what they were looking at. So there's an auto plan that's going already that says, hey, thanks for checking out our website. Were you guys thinking about buying, thinking about selling, or maybe interested in purchasing an investment property? Right. And then an hour later, it'll say, hey, if you were thinking about buying, where would you want to live? And whenever we get in there to make that phone call, and generally it's not in the first hour. Our agents are busy. They're like, unless that lead comes in between 9 and noon, we're like sitting down at the computer. But otherwise, we're out at appointments and we're on the go. And they're probably not going to get this happening until the next day. So the next day, they've already had that first day's worth of text communication. And we'll show you this here in a minute, the 10 days of pain. That next day, we're going to try to get a kind of a meaningful one-to-one text into them, right? Hey, Jenny, I noticed that you looked at a property in Bellingham and you were looking way down in Puyallup. Those 2 areas are like 3 hours apart. Give me some insight on what has you looking in such a wide range here in Western Washington. Yeah, Ashley says, I use Ben Verified a lot now. It was a game changer this last month. Absolutely, Ashley. If you have quickly leads, if you do any kind of home seller type leads where you get the address only stuff, Ben Verified is like game changer. We get a lot of people that say, hey, I got all these home value leads, but like 60% of them don't have any contact information. And I go look in my mom's account. My mom's an agent. She runs Ben Kinney's expansion team in Olympia. Her home value leads, the same home value leads, like 95% of hers have information because they use Ben Verified, and all those, hers came in looking just like other people's did, where 60% didn't have any, but they find it all. Yeah. All right. So there's some different ways that we might approach them when we're making contact, right? It's not unheard of that we will send a Facebook to, like, we'll try to friend somebody and send a Facebook chat to them, right? Ben, and we still have agents that do this from his cell phone. Sometimes would send him a video message, right? Just real quick. Hey, this is Ben Keating. I just wanted to know I got your inquiry that you guys had made on my website, right? Just right into his phone, send that out. Listing alerts and market reports. So listing alerts, guys, a lot of your leads that come in, if they come in through Brivity, especially if you're running campaigns where we're managing your lead flow for you, they're going to have listing alerts set up automatically. But every single lead gets a listing alert before we've ever spoken to them, based on what they were looking at. And if we don't know, by the way, sometimes John Hurlbut, you get Dave Ramsey ELP leads, and sometimes you're like, I don't know, they just kind of came to me through Dave Ramsey. I assume they're looking somewhere down here in Pierce County or South King County. We have a generic listing alert for every one of our teams. So in Bellingham, that might be Bellingham, Washington, 350 to 600,000, or I don't know. This market's dramatically changed in the last year, so I don't know what their generic is now. It's probably a little higher than it used to be. Right, Gail down in Olympia, she's got 2 major cities, Olympia and Tacoma. So her generic, if she gets a lead, she's like, I don't really know where they were looking. They're going to get a listing alert in Olympia and Tacoma, probably 300 to 500,000, somewhere in that range. Every single lead. We don't wait to talk to them. Why? Because we're not going to talk to many of these people that first time or that second time or the first month or the second month. Yeah, right away, Ashley, right away, daily. This is our primary drip mechanism. Like, we've got the 10 days of paying going, and we'll get into that here in a minute. But it's listings. That's really what they want. They want to see listings. So we just start sending them right away. And Ashley, if you did a generic, we've done this. Ben will buy a database. An agent goes out of business in one of his market centers, like he'll offer to buy their database. And when we do that, we'll just set them all up on listing alerts. A lot of you, we don't know where these people came from. Where these? And now look. Some of them will be pissed. They'll be like, who are you? Where did you get my email? Wow, I'm going to tell somebody. Some of them will just unsubscribe with the button that's on there, right? Which makes sure that you're not violating any canned spam laws. But some of them will say, hey, we're not looking in Bellingham. We have to be out in Ferndale or Blaine or Linden, right? Someone will say, hey, you're sending me 2 and 3 bedroom stuff. I got a bunch of kids. Like, I need 4 or more bedrooms. Some of them just won't say anything. They'll just start clicking on those alerts and showing back up on the website, giving me a reason to reach back out to them. Now, market reports, this is like our secret weapon, you guys. We set a market report up on every buyer lead as well. So market reports, and if you're not familiar with a market report, what those do is they send out active, anything currently active, pending, anything currently pending, and anything that's sold in the last 30 days in an area that you determine. Now, generally, these are seller side, right? We think about these for potential sellers, our sphere, our past clients, because they live in an address. And so we send them all the real estate market information happening around where they live. But on the buyer side, you guys, we set up a market report for where they're looking, right? So let's say that they came in, they were looking at a $450,000 property here in Bellingham. We would set them up for, 400 to 550 listing alert. In Bellingham, hey, here's the new properties. Let's get you those every day. And then they'd get a weekly market report showing them the market, all the actives, all the pendings, and what's sold in the last 30 days, and at what prices did those homes sell for in Bellingham between 400 and 550, just mirroring or matching up their listing alert with a corresponding market report. Most people don't do this. We get a massive number of extra opportunities to get in and spot these people looking at their market reports and reach out to them. Yeah, Travis, the market reports and the CRMs, the listing alerts and the market reports come from separate emails, separate mail servers. We also, on the market reports do not sunset. But the listing alerts sunset over time, because you asked the question, do we do that do we have separate emails to try to protect delivery rates and keep the spam scores low? Yes, we have separate servers, but we also sunset listing alerts because those go every single day. If somebody doesn't open them for, it's been a while since I've spouted out these numbers. I want to say it's like 60 straight sends, then we move it to weekly. If they don't open, like, it's either 3 or 4 months worth of weeklies, then we change it to monthly. And if they don't open like 6 months worth of monthlies, we actually turn that listing alert off, because if we didn't, we would have millions of listing alerts going out, potentially like, let's say Gmail, that weren't getting opened. And eventually Google would be like, this seems fishy, right? So we will shut those things down over time. Yeah, yep. Ron, man, we send buyers get listing alerts to get them the new properties, and market reports to show what's happening with those new properties that we were sending them. Absolutely, absolutely. All right. We want to make contact fast, guys. But look, here's the we use auto plans for this. Our agents, like, look, the faster we can call them, the better. But the reality is we're out doing business, a lot of business. And so we use auto plans that trigger automatically and start firing messages at these people right away. And I'm going to give you guys a bunch of our auto plans here in just a little bit. When we're making contact, we have some kind of motivations. Like, what are we doing, right? And what's our goal in making contact? We're trying to identify their motivation levels, right? Like, are they going to do something soon and they become a hot in our database? Or are they just kind of, yeah, they're doing something, but they're not in any rush, and it's probably not going to happen for the next 3 to 12 months? Well, that'd be a B motivation level, or a nurture, right? Are they love their house, they just like clicking around on the internet, and they're probably going to live there for, at least a year, if not 3 or 5. They become a watch in our world. When we talk to them, we're trying to get additional contact information, right? Like, if they didn't come in with an address and we, they say, we're just browsing, and we say, that's fantastic. We're so glad you started looking on our website. And most people that are one day going to buy or sell start by just browsing. That's great. Hey, do you currently live in the area? Oh, you do. That's fantastic. Where do you guys live? Oh, you're on Puyallup. Awesome. Do you guys rent or own out there right now? Oh, cool. You own. Hey, would it be of value to you if we set you guys up to get a report that showed you all the real estate activity kind of around your house? It's just a really, really easy way for you guys to kind of get a good sense for what your home's worth based on what your neighbors are selling for. Would that be of value to you? What's your address? All right, we're always trying to get an address, you guys, right? Is this the best email address? I'm going to send that report. Is this the best? Is there another one? Do you have a husband or wife you'd like to see this too? Obviously, we're trying to build rapport through Ford and get to know them and what their goals are. But at the end of the day, we're really trying to get an appointment. And that's kind of our primary goal, is to set an appointment. Let's keep going here. 10 days of pain. All right, ready? So we've got the email rules, short and concise. And you don't have to, I guess, if you're going to build your own plans, your own way to attack these leads, you should make your email short and concise. I promise you, nobody reads an email more than a paragraph from you the first time. They've never met you before. You think they're reading these novels. They're not. We're very short and concise, and we are often asking for an appointment. The stand and smile when you're on the phone, it just gives you an extra energy, because when you're doing lead conversion, a lot of times you're just making a lot of calls. You can get worn out, right? If you were to go into any of our offices, but definitely this office down the hall from me here in Bellingham, everybody's on their feet. They're not sitting in the chairs. They are on their feet making their calls. A lot of them have the stand-up desk that raise and lower. Match your voice to your audience. Guys, I promise you, when I used to do a lot of calling leads or answering our inbound phones, we had Brio Realty. If a sweet little old lady called in, I sure as heck didn't sound like I sound most of this webinar, right, you guys? I would match my voice to my audience. I would kind of get into that character. I think that some of the best converters we have are chameleons. You go in and watch Anthony Zapata, and 1 minute he sounds like I sound right now, and on the next call, he's right down here where he should be to meet that person. All right. Why don't some of these leads get closed? We don't communicate fast enough, right? We don't have auto plans. I see lead every single day. I see leads that never had a call, never had an email, never had anything. Like, they came in, you guys either paid for them or worked for them and got them in there, and nobody called them, right? You guys, we know this is a fact. We stop communicating You know, think about that Katie Sentinella lead that I talked to you guys about earlier. She literally had made 30 texts back and forth with that person, 29 log calls or 27, something like that. We don't stop on Ben's teams. Like we keep going until they basically say, please stop, like get lost. My God, leave me alone. We don't look for buy signs. One of the best things you can do inside of your database right now, in any given day, is go look at your last visitors to your website, go into the lead index on your database and click last visit column. And like, those are signs. John, we went and looked at some of this stuff yesterday. Inside of that, there's additional signs, right? People that looked at 7 properties, there's the same property 7 times, right? That's a buy sign, you guys. Somebody that looked at a property when it first hit the market, and then like 8 days later, they looked at it again when the price got dropped, or 15 days later, or whatever. We saw some of those yesterday, John, right? This idea that like, well, if they like that property when it hit at that price, and now the price has been dropped and they're looking at it again, there's a couple things especially in this market that we're in here in Washington, that would tell me maybe they can go in and make an offer and feel like they're getting a deal, right? If that thing's been on the market for 2 weeks, it was overpriced originally, it's now been dropped. It's you know, the sellers are willing to negotiate at this point, right? It's a motivated seller. You seemingly have a motivated buyer. We don't look for those signs all the time, or sometimes we don't even know where to look. We send spam. If you send like a newsletter, I guarantee it gets more unsubscribes than it gets opens. Like, unless you're William Shakespeare or you're a really awesome like headline writer, what do they want? The thing you have they want is data. The listings, what's selling around them, how much is their house worth? Sometimes we focus on the wrong sources. Your team's not converting because sometimes they don't say the right things, guys. We have a message center inside of Brivity. It's one of the best places you can go to understand what your team is saying to the leads. If you're not spending a little bit of time each day in your message center watching what your agents are saying, if I was being brutally honest, I would say that you're failing them as their leader. Right? Because I promise you, if you go in there, you'll see somebody on your team saying, you know, when somebody says, we're just looking, they'll say, sometimes they won't say anything, but you'll see them saying, okay, well, let me know if you need anything. We're here to help you. Right? We want to say, that's awesome. We're glad you found us to start looking. Everybody starts there. You guys live around here right now? Or, hey, I noticed your phone number was an out of area code. Are you down there in San Diego where your phone's coming from? You give them too many leads. When somebody has too many, look, the common question is, how many is too many? And I don't have the answer. There's not a one size fits all answer for how many leads to give somebody. The answer is a function of how much effort they're willing to put in to those leads. Right? We have a Katie, I'll bring her up again. She makes 550 dials into her database every week, every 5 days. So in a month, Katie could call 2,200 leads. She could call in a month, making 550 dials a week. Most people make like 10 or 12 dials into their database a week. How many leads should they have? Probably like 200 max. They shouldn't even have that many. So that it is a function of their effort, but if let's just say they're making medium effort, but they got a ton of leads, well, they're not going to get very deep on them. And what they'll end up doing is they'll always be hunting for that unicorn lead. They'll always be hunting for the lead that's going to answer the phone the first time and be like, I want to go see a house today, and I'm probably going to buy it. Like, those don't come along very often, but if your agent has too many leads, they start kind of looking for that one instead of getting really deep and getting that, you know, that 10th call. And sometimes it takes that 10th call, as much as we hate to hear that, right? We only email them. You guys all know somebody on your team or somebody you've worked with in the past that has call reluctance. They just are not willing to pick, so they email it. Look, I'm a firm believer that text is a really great way to like create, to start that relationship with somebody. Eventually you are going to have to get on the phone with them. You don't expect what you don't inspect what you expect. Look, we give these people the systems, we give them the models, we teach them the 10 days of pain, we talk to them about all these things we're talking about here today, and then we go, okay, go. We never come back like a week later and see, like, are they doing all the stuff that we talked about that I trained them in 1 hour on, right? Like the idea they could learn all this in 1 hour and just be off and running is pretty nuts, right? I don't know, maybe you just have the wrong people. If you have call reluctance, you might have the wrong people. All right, actual 10 days of pain. The first thing we're going to do, we get in here, we get a lead. 10 days of pain fires on them, right? We get this task that says, all right, get ready, right? And it just kind of walks you through getting ready to know your future customer, right? Make sure they got a listen alert set up. What can I learn about them by just looking at this lead? Are there any typos in here? They're going to tell where they work. What's the area code on the phone number, right? Should I look them up really quick in Facebook, right? What properties have they looked at? One piece of contact info into multiples. Look them up on Facebook or pull them up and been verified. Right? Now I'm ready to make that call. I know what they were looking at. I know a little bit about them, maybe. Maybe I don't. That's okay. At least I know what they were looking at. Then we're going to call. Guys, the first time, I know this sounds crazy, but I was just talking. Who was telling me this? I don't know. Maybe it was somebody on the Bellingham team yesterday. I did our monthly call with them. They had called 4 times. That is one more than we asked them to call, but we asked them to call 3 times on that first time they call the lead, call them, they don't answer, hang up, call right back. They don't answer, hang up, call right back. On that 3rd time, we'll leave a voicemail. Change the status of the lead. All the rest of this, I'm gonna give you guys right here, okay? And this is gonna be a big dump, you guys, of stuff that I'm about to dump your way. But these are, how many are there here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you are a Brivity client, oh, it's too big. All right, let's split it up here. We'll dump these first 4 to you guys. Let's try that. Everyone's getting this. Boom. All right, so there's our first 4 plans. You got the Ben Kinney 2020 team 10 days of pain, which is this. Okay. You've got the Facebook version of it. So if you're out generating Facebook leads, instead of saying, hey, you're on my website, the first text says, hey, thanks for checking out our listing on Facebook. All the rest of the stuff is the same. It's all kind of generic. Didn't matter if they came from Zillow, your website, Facebook, Dave Ramsey, like wherever, doesn't matter. There's a quick lead version for you guys, which is a text only version, because when we get a quick lead, we don't have an email, right? So it strips out all the emails and it's just a series of text messages. And then we've got one for seller leads in there as well, the kind of the 10 days of pain seller version. And then here's another set of 2 that I'm going to give you. By the way, if you are if you're a Brivity client, but you're not the account owner, you need to copy these links and you need to give them to your account owner. I believe only the account owner can pull in these plans from somewhere else. But if you're the account owner and you click on these links, it's gonna pull that auto plan right into your Brivity account. Let me just see here. When I click the link, here's what just happened for you. Look at that. I'm actually logged in as John. John, you're on the call here. You can see I haven't logged out since being in here yesterday with you. But that's what should happen when you click that link. But again, you have to be logged into Brivity as the account owner of your Brivity account. Guys, if you're having any problem with this, yeah, that's probably the problem. You have to be logged into Brivity. You have to be the account owner. If not, just save those links and go give them to your account owner. Nichi, if you're not the account owner, then save them and go give them to your account owner, and they can pull them in for you guys. So just copy them out of the chat here. The next ones are there's 2 like old lead plans, right? One's an old buyer lead re-engage plan, and one's an old seller lead re-engage plan. They last 6 months long. They're chock full of all sorts of offers and asks. But here's something I would plead with you guys. Make sure you go in and read these plans. Like, you want to know, this is what we say to people. It's what Ben's team says, right? Like, there's a place in there where we talk about how owning a home your first year could be worth, could add $25,000 or $30,000 to your net worth. Would you be curious to know how, basically? Well, our teams are all trained to do that. If somebody called you and was like, well, tell me how if you couldn't have that discussion about the average appreciation rate in your area, plus the forced savings of principal reduction, plus the tax benefits, right? I'm like, maybe take that step out of the 10 days of pain. But please read these first, I guess, would be my, the links also have to have www in them. What are you talking about? We're supposed to see what you're talking about. All right. Back to present. Somebody just say, you guys see my screen right now? Yeah, so they work for Susie. I'm not sure if some of them aren't working for some of you guys. Maybe you're not logged in. I'm not sure. You can reach out to our support team. They should be able to get you all of these. Thank you, Kurt. All right, so this is the actual 10 days of pain, but you guys are pulling this in, so you'll be able to see these. Here's one, for example, that you might want to edit. Like, this is kind of referencing Ben's teams. A lot of them Ben's got his own mortgage company called BKCL Mortgage, and soon to be Place Mortgage. But this is also a Keller Williams concept. The Keller Mortgage offers this, right? But if you don't offer this, you don't work with Keller Mortgage, you don't have this zero lender fees and $1,000 cash back at closing offer from a lender, then don't put this in there. Because God forbid somebody reply and go, I want that. And you're like, oh, shoot, I don't do that. Michael, can you scroll back up in the chat there, bud? All right. If not, I'll give them to you guys again at the end. All right. So 10 days of pain. There's all this stuff in here. A couple things that I think are fun. Like, we get a little bit belligerent at the end, right? At the end, we're just like, where is it? I don't know. Did I drop the ball? Just like a text that says, did I drop the ball? And people will reply to this and be like, what do you mean? And you're like, well, I've been texting and emailing you for like a week and you haven't replied. Like, I just assumed I must have dropped the ball. I don't know. Right? Jimmy? Just a text that just says Jimmy. And it's so funny. People will reply and go, yeah, who's this? And you're like, what do you mean, who's this? The real estate agent has been texting you every day for the last 9 days. Like, how dare you? But these work. These get people to respond. Then you got to know what to say, right? Jimmy, well, who's this? Hey, this is Bob Stewart with Keller Williams. I noticed that you were on our website about 10 days. I've been texting you every day. What's your guys' plan? Are you looking at buying a new house? Maybe thinking about selling the one you live in? I love texting. You hate responding. After the 10 days of pain, we give them a month of breather. We give them a month of breather if they haven't responded at all. If they've responded at some point in there, we plot what's next, right? We're constantly using a series of reminders after we've talked to them. We don't use drip campaigns on real people. Let me repeat that. We don't use drip campaigns on real people. We use drip campaigns on leads. Once they start talking to us, if you had 100 people that started talking to you, they all have a unique situation. The idea that you could build a drip campaign to nurture people over 9 months, it's crazy. Nurture them with listing alerts and market reports. That's your drip. Once you have somebody on the phone, it's what's next. The reminder to say what's next. All right. I want to transition for a second into our Brivity Connect product. Guys, there is for years, I started doing this in 2001 was the first lead we generated, internet lead online in 2001. And for 17 years after that, it was basically the same way we approached these leads. Now, there's been a few things, Facebook along the way, or text messaging. Back then, all we had was calls and emails. right? There's been some introductions that made the approach a little bit more robust, but it's essentially been the same approach. We get a lead, we try to call, we set them up on some kind of a drip, right? Listing alerts. In the beginning, all we had was listing alerts. And then we'd call and we'd set them up on like an email, like a 10 days of pain email campaign way back then, right? And then maybe they'd get another call from us, right? But that bottom line represents kind of most leads. Probably most leads you guys work in your own world today, if you were being real honest with yourself, right? They get a call right in the beginning, you know, maybe a call a couple days in, maybe a call a weekend. But I'll bet most of your leads that are 6 to 9 months old haven't been called in a hot minute, right? They maybe are still getting a listing alert. There's probably was a drip campaign early, but I bet you don't have anything later. The top is kind of the approach we're taking today. So it includes the listing alerts, obviously, right? It also adds in the market reports because we get those on everybody, buyer or seller, it doesn't matter, right? We've got the auto text and auto emails coming out of the 10 days of pain, and then subsequently coming off of that old buyer lead re-engage plan. We've got a dialer, so we can get into Brivity and make a high volume of calls, which means we can get more calls into our database, guys. Using the dialer, by the way, if you don't use the dialer in Brivity, it saves you about 20 seconds a call. Instead of hanging up and manually dialing the next call, you're saving about 20 seconds using the dialer transition call to call, which might not seem like a big deal, but let's go talk about Katie Sentinel. And I mentioned her earlier. And this last week, she's made like 550 calls into her database. Now, I'm going to act like she only made 450 because the math is quite a bit easier on 450 calls. But let's say every week this year, and by the way, she's done this. She's made 450 calls into the database. It's more than that, but let's just say it's 450 a week, which, guys, by the way, is about 3x what we even expect. But she's building a really awesome, really big business. She's gonna make more money this year she's ever made in her life by like multiples. Now, what's the math on saving 20 seconds making 450 dials? Every 3 calls you'd save a minute. So she's saving 150 minutes a week not dialing the phone, you guys. That's 2.5 hours a week she saves simply not picking her phone up and punching in the phone number for the next person. Excuse me? 2.5 hours a week? What if she worked 50 weeks this year? Save 125 hours? 125 hours that you guys spent, if you make that many calls. Now, most of you aren't making that many calls, but if you were, Katie's time savings using the dialer is massive. Now, that second layer right there, dynamic property retargeting and display ad retargeting, is something we built called Brivity Connect. So this last like 10 minutes, I'm just going to bang through Brivity Connect really fast, but basically it's this 3-pronged kind of approach to helping enhance your generation and conversion of leads. So the first prong is a campaign where we sit down with you guys one-on-one and we talk to you about your market and try to find you your desired type of buyer. For example, this ad we see on here is a guy named Jeff Ellert. He was down in Las Vegas. Last summer, we ran all these campaigns for him designed to target people that we thought were probably getting sick and tired of not being able to use the public pool that they lived at, right? They lived in a condo complex that had a public pool, or a high-rise that had a public pool, or some of the subdivisions down there have these public pool environments, and they were tired of it because COVID has shut their pool down. So we started targeting all these buyers saying, hey, you know what? Move out to Henderson and you can get a pool, or you can get a house with your own pool between 500 and $1 million. Those ads started getting served up to people that had to sell their condo in Vegas before they'd move out to Henderson to buy the house with the private pool. We didn't know that was going on down there necessarily, right? Our digital advertising team is really good at getting the ads in front of the right people. We had to work with Jeff to figure out who's the right person down there. And then we built these campaigns to go out and generate leads for him at a really, really affordable cost. Now, he gets listing alerts and market reports in place on him. He gets the 10 days of paying going, right? And they use Facebook lead forms, right? here's the difference between us running it for you, or even you can do these through Brivity Marketer and doing it on something like Command, or even doing it directly through Facebook. When you do it on Command or directly through Facebook, after you get the lead, you have to send them somewhere. And where you're sending them is just to probably that property on your website, but not logged in. They just land on your website. If they wanted to start poking around your website more and look at 2 or 3 more properties, they might actually be asked to register again on your website. That's a horrible experience for the consumer. What we do, we work with Facebook. We create these logins on the fly, and we will go in and when we get the lead, we'll just log them right into your website right away. They don't have to do anything. They just land there and they're logged in. If they look at a second property, we track that for you. If they set up a search, we track that for you. If they favorite a property, you see that right from the get, right? We call that eliminating the friction. Now, then with these ads, what we do, let's say we generate, so we've got all these ads out there running for you, right? Let's say we generate 100 leads. And it's right around when we generate about 100 is when we start piping information back to Facebook. But we've been doing this on hundreds of other campaigns before you even showed up, right? When we've been taking from Facebook, we're getting leads. And we're like, okay, you sent us 1,000 leads, right? Thanks, Facebook, we appreciate it. There was actually a set of 100 people that did a high value activity in those 1,000 leads you sent us. So they looked at 4 or 5 properties, they favorited a property, they set up their own home search, and we send back to Facebook what's called a lookalike audience. So we're like, hey, we are 1,000 leads. Thank you, we appreciate it. The 100 of those leads, these 100, can you find us more like that? And we give them those people back. And there's this movie called The Social Dilemma that really dives into like Facebook's purpose, why they're around, their advertising algorithms, and we're like, look, good, bad, or indifferent. We're helping train Facebook's algorithms to target our ads even more specifically to the right people. Right? So think about that ad of Jeff's that we're looking for people that can afford a $500,000 to $1 million home out in Henderson. They're not showing that to a bunch of students with student loan debt that go to UNLV. Right? Over time, they start to really dial that in on people probably that own a home right now that can afford a $500,000 to $1 million house, right? They know so much about us, you guys. They know so much about us. They know where we work. They know how much money we make. They know how much our spouses make. They know how much debt we have. Like, they know. Then we retarget them. And not just them, not just the lead we created for you. Anybody that comes to your website one time, we start to retarget them. Now, if they came to your website and they just hit it and they didn't look at anything, we start retargeting them with kind of generic price properties in your area. But if they come and let's say they look at a $500,000 property in Bellingham, guess what they're going to see the next time they get in Facebook, Instagram, or any of the apps or the websites that Facebook powers, which is a lot, by the way. They're going to see that $500,000 listing in Bellingham. Then they're going to see other $500,000 listings in Bellingham. Just like when you go to Nordstrom right now and you look at that pair of shoes, and that stupid pair of shoes follows you around the internet. And then they show you other pairs of shoes, kind of like that one. Does that happen to anybody on here? Or is it just me? I mean, I love shoes, so maybe it's just me. No, of course that's happening to you guys, right? This retargeting is absolutely happening. Ashley knows. Right? We do that. Brivity Connect does that. We take your inventory in the MLS and we feed it up to Facebook and we just start retargeting these people with whatever they were looking at on your website. Putting your brand in front of them, continuing to drive them back to your website, pushing them up in the database as a recent visitor so you can go call them again as they heat up, right? Solidifying you as the agent they should go to. Now, that feed's active. We're always pulling the stuff that sells and adding the new listings each day. And it's managed by our team, and it's really managed programmatically, right? Where we're constantly feeding new inventory up to these people, constantly driving them back to your website, constantly imprinting your brand on their brain. That's the second element of Brivity Connect. First element, we go get leads. Second element, we retarget not just those leads, but anybody in the database, old leads. We also, by the way, retarget people that land on your website but don't actually register. Let's say somebody went in and they referred you got referred to them. Their friend was like, you should use John Hurlbut. And so they went and Googled John Hurlbut and they land on your website. They didn't do anything. Maybe they didn't even reach out, John. In their head, they're like, we'll reach out when we're ready, which we're not going to be ready for 6 months. But they said we should use John. So we checked him out and we think he's, maybe we'll put his hat in the ring. We don't know for sure. All of a sudden, they'll start seeing your ads everywhere. Not just your retargeting ads with properties, by the way, but also these on the Google network. So guys, Facebook and Google take up 98% of the advertising you see on the internet comes from one of those two giants, okay? We use the Facebook side of things to retarget properties. We use the Google side of things and we use a couple of other app networks to try to try to get that last 2% of the ads out there. We use a few other things besides just Google. But we put a brand campaign out for you guys where everywhere they go, every app they look at, every website they pull up. And look, we don't care if they they like Fox News and lean right, you'll be there. They like MSNBC and lean left, you'll be there. They like CNN, they like their news down the middle, you'll be there too. And you'll be on the Wall Street Journal and you'll be like their local Bellingham Herald, they go there, you're going to be there. And over time, because look, most of these leads don't buy for 9 months, 12 months, 18 months. They're going to be thinking, man, this John dude, he's everywhere. Like every freaking where I go, I was reading the news, he's all over that. I got tired of the news. I went to play Candy Crush. Dude was there. Like he's on this ad in between my Candy Crush games. Like this guy must spend $1 million on advertising. How's this possible? Yeah, Pamela, that would be, Pamela says, if we don't have a bunch of people, do you have a way to put us in front of those people? Yeah, that's the first component here is we go out and help you get the leads. Absolutely, Pamela, super cost effective. There's some other tools in Brivity. You could do this yourself. Brivity Marketer is a tool where you can get out there and drive your own Facebook leads. And right now we're getting leads in Marketer for about $2.45 on average a lead. Well, I went too far. So we're just saturating their internet experience with you guys. We want them to be getting listing alerts and market reports in their email, phone calls from you guys every so often, text messages and emails from the auto plans. They're seeing you everywhere they go on Facebook. Every website they pull up, your stuff's showing up there. Like this all out multi-pronged approach. This is how we convert leads, you guys. And lead conversion's hard. I think it makes sense in this last couple minutes to talk about, here's when every 100 leads we get, we believe there are 3 to 6 deals in every 100 leads. Think about that. Every 100 leads, there are 3 to 6 deals. And if we get less than that, we're not happy. 3 to 6. But look, if we get more than that, we're super happy. But here's what that looks like. So let's say we got 100 leads in, it's September. 100 leads came in. 1 or 2 of those leads is going to buy in the next 90 days. Buy or sell in the next 90 days. One or two of those leads is going to buy or sell from 3 months, more than 90 days, from 3 months to a year. And 1 or 2 of those leads is going to buy from a year to 2 years. So whenever I hear people ask, like, what's the ROI on these leads? I'm like, I don't know. Have you been doing them for 2 years? Because we know there's a deal or two that aren't going to happen between 1 and 2 years from now. So if you're 9 months into something and you're like, well, what's my ROI? It's probably going to be 1% at that point, right? Or my conversion rate's going to be 1%. But here's the thing. Most teams, you guys, can get the 1 or 2 deals that happen in the first 90 days because those people answer the phone right away. They reply to the auto plans, right? They engage like kind of fast. The vast majority of agents and real estate teams out there don't get any of the rest of the conversions. They don't get the conversions that happen from 9 to 12 months. And they definitely don't get the ones that happen from a year to 2 years from now. Why? Because they're constantly looking for that first one. They don't get deep enough with their leads. They stop calling them. You know, go look and see how many of your leads that are 6 months old have had a call in the last month. It's this multifaceted, consistent approach with these, you know, sometimes it's these long-term auto plans that pull them in. It's doing things like Katie does, where once a week she just gets in and puts in her old unqualified leads in the database, unqualified people she's never talked to, puts them in order by last interaction, and goes and calls the oldest ones, and constantly on that dialer trying to just get in there and mix it up. Yeah, Nietzsche, it's a long game for sure. Nothing's a longer game than internet lead conversion. If you guys want people that are going to buy or sell sooner, go do open houses, and that's what we're going to talk about next week. But look, we can get you a ton of internet leads. You guys, some of you guys go out and get a ton yourself. It's in the conversion and, you know, having proper expectations, but realizing if you don't get some systems in place and you don't get good at following up over a long period, if you don't set remind, when you talk to a lead today, it's not going to buy for a year or says stuff like, I'm just looking. If you don't get a reminder in there to follow up with them and probably have 6 or 8 or 10 follow-ups before they ever even get ready to actually start looking to buy or sell, you are going to get 1% conversion rates. Look, our teams that really nail this, that operate on every aspect we've been talking about here at a high level. Their scripts are dialed in, their systems are there. They've got everything triggering, auto plans are firing. They've got Brivity Connect engaged. Some of these teams are getting 7, 8, 9 conversions per 100 leads. But it happens over 2 years, guys. We'll convert leads this year that came into our database in 2015, 16, 17. Ashley says, if you get someone looking out for a year or two, how often do you set the reminder to follow up monthly? Here's what we say, Ashley. We've got some standards of our database. One of the standards says, if you're willing to call them hot, you have to be willing to talk to them once a week. So hot would be they're going to do something in the next 90 days. I got to be willing to set a reminder at least every week or reach out to them every week. If I'm willing to call them a nurture, which is 3 to 12 months out, Ashley, I have to be willing to call them or follow up once a month. If I'm willing to call them a watch, which would be a year or more out, and that's kind of what you're talking about there, Ashley, I need to be willing to follow up once a quarter. So at the time, at the phase they're in that watch stage where they're like a year or more out, we follow up once a quarter. Once they get to, we kind of go, oh, okay, they're eating up a little bit, right? They did say they wanted to be in that house by next summer, and it's, you know, it's September, like they're 10 months out now. We're going to move them to nurture, and we're going to start following up once a month. Yeah, Pamela, if you have Brivity, we have an API connection with Zillow. So if you get leads from Zillow, they're on Zillow, we'll pipe the lead right into Brivity. We can set an auto plan up to trigger and fire automatically. We've got a Zillow version. I don't think I shared the Zillow version today, but we do have a Zillow version of the 10 Days of Pain, which will, fire a text message that says, hey, thanks for looking at that property on Zillow. I'm the premier agent. So yeah, we can pull leads in from Zillow. Now, but what we'll do, Pamela, is you'll go in and set a listing alert up from Brivity to start sending them listings from Brivity, because we want to peel them away from Zillow. If you don't do that, the next time they think, I want to go look at houses, they'll go back to Zillow, and we want to stop that. So we're going to get the lead from Zillow into Brivity, and then we want to try to retrain them. Instead of going back to Zillow next time, they come back to your website instead. Conversion Monster, Nicole, you can use like a Zapier connection to pipe in stuff from Conversion Monster. It's either, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Zapier. There's a, yeah. All right, so here's the deal. If you're a Brivity client, you're interested in Brivity Connect, like pull your phone out right now and text BC15 to 59559. We've been, we only allow so many people into the Connect program every month. It's just a function of how big our team is right now, and maybe one day it'll be a little bit bigger. But because we do this, you know, we meet with you guys, we try to figure out like what your strategy is. We go out and build all the collateral on the ads and all the copy and everything. So we don't take that many people into this program every month. We've got a few spots. I think there's 1 or 2 spots open like this month, and then a few next month as well. So if you're interested in Brivity Connect, you can text BC15 to 59559. So pull your phone out, send a message to 59559, the body of the message BC15. If you're interested in Brivity, just go to Brivity and right on, when you go to brivity.com, the big request a demo button, hit that. If you do go do your demo, we'll give you Ben's listing presentation. And I should probably update this slide. I think I pulled this deck together from a few different decks, and they took a lot more than 1,000 listings last year. Ben's team did 5,700 transactions last year. I don't even know what we're on track for this year. I look at the weekly reports. It's a lot, you guys. We're selling a lot of houses. A lot of it's coming out of our just dedicated lead conversion. You guys, next week, we're going to talk. Aaron, just confirm for me, what are we doing? Open houses next week? Is that right? We're going to keep on the conversion train next week. Automation station, choo-choo. We'll see you guys next week. We're going to have Ben Kinney in here in a couple weeks. Kurt, appreciate you, my friend. John Hurlbut, thanks for joining me. Barry Steve down in Las Vegas. Love you, my friend. We'll see you guys. Bye. Jake Becker, if you send me an email to Bob at Ben Kinney, Jake, I'll put the slides in our masterminds group, our Brivity masterminds group. The slide deck, I'll put it up in there when we get the recording turned around tomorrow. Recording will go out tomorrow, Travis. We'll also put it up in the masterminds group in there. The links on here, where do I place them? Pamela, if you're not a Brivity client, those links aren't going to do anything for you. If you're a Brivity client, that will pull those auto plans into your account. So here's what. Oh, you are? Okay. So what you want to do is get logged into your account, make sure you're the account owner, and then just click that link. And what it'll do is it will basically take you to a page. I hear we're still here. Let me share my screen again really fast. It'll take you to a page that once you click the link, it'll take you to a page that looks just like this, where it's a shared plan with you. And then you'll just want to add this to your plans. And then you'll head over to your people plans section here, and you'll see it in your people plans then down below here once you've added it from that area. And Pamela, if you have any problem with that, reach out to the chat down in the bottom right hand corner here. There's always a chat. You can chat with us, and they can help pull it into your account for you if you needed it. All right, I'm going to bounce, you guys. Have an awesome week, and we will see you next Wednesday as we keep the automation. I don't know. Her quippy was a lot funner. I can't remember. Bye.